Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today we are doing my flip through of my July planner pages. So I really think this will be the shortest flip through I've ever done on my channel. I have very little to show you in July. I mentioned this in my June planner flip through, but in June I was basically most of the month in Google Calendar. That carried into July as well. So for most of July, I was on Google Calendar. I did try to get back into paper planning for July, but as you will see in this flip through, it was not a good month for paper planning, at least. It was a great month overall in terms of doing things and having fun with my kids, but I was not in my planners. So we're going to go right into it and show you what I've got here. I have at the very top my expense tracker, and so I am going to just hold it up instead of trying to zoom in. So for July, what I did in here for June, you can see I decorated for a couple of weeks and then I just gave up. So for July, I did try to get in here and use it. So starting July 1st, I just decorated this week, as you can see, with a 4th of July theme. I did take some notes in terms of expense tracking, but then the very next week, I stopped. And so the rest of July is pretty much empty. So you'll see here that I have come back in and again tried for August. I am good so far with the first week, so we'll see if I continue doing it for August. But yeah, it was just that 1 week in July. So my expenses, because I am not tracking them in this book, I basically use a digital app, Rocket Money, the free version of Rocket Money, to be able to track my expenses. I don't necessarily have any of the common or most popular ways of tracking my expenses in terms of I don't do a zero budget, I don't do any of the more popular techniques. I really just track my expenses so that way I can have basically a check register of some sort to mark off when things get pulled out of my accounts. So if I don't have it, then of course it's still going to be pulled out. I just don't have a record of it. So I just have to be on Rocket Money a little bit more often to check my dollar amounts to make sure everything looks okay. So that's what I do for expense tracking. I'm going to try to get back into it for August and to be a little bit better, basically, right? August is my month to get back into paper planning. So the next one is this book, which initially I was planning to use as my catch-all personal planner. I decided in July, since June was not a good month for me in terms of personal catch-all planning in the classic size, I wanted to move down to a smaller size to see if that would work for me. It did not, so that's the spoiler alert. I ended up not doing anything in here. So let me go to July. I ended up redating this book. So this is a book that I got from Go Wild. It's actually for 2024. And so I just went through and am only using the weekly pages. And so I just redated the weekly pages. Again, this is July, starting July 1st. And I initially started putting my plans in here, but that wasn't really necessary because I had a monthly calendar, and so my Google Calendar, and so I ended up pretty much just using it as my food log. Now, one thing I found in the very first week is that logging my food meant that I was squeezing notes in here. I was just taking either too many notes, too many details for what I was eating, that kind of thing. But I tried, and then you can see it was only that 1 week. So the second week I did decorate. I decorated the entire month, but I didn't use any of these other pages. And so I can absolutely reuse these pages. In fact, I probably will at some point just kind of cycle back through and reuse it. This was decorated for July, but because I didn't use it for July, I decided to pick up in August, and I put an August sticker here to mark that, and decided instead of using it for my food log that I would just convert all of this and just kind of use this entire planner for my social media log. And so you'll see here that I've started with my social media, and that's actually, again, just like with my expense tracker, it's been working well for the first week. So we will see if I continue doing it. Again, for the second time, I'm saying that August is my month to get back into it. So as you can see, for personal planning, it was pretty basic. I just had my food log for that 1 week and then my expense tracker for that 1 week. The remainder of my planning, I basically simplified all the way down to just digital planning. I took notes and put notes to myself basically as events in Google Calendar. I will not show that on this video, but in my June planner lineup, which I will link in the description, I did include screenshots actually kind of like a video of what my June looked like in my Google Calendar. It was exactly the same for July. Different events, of course, but the exact same kind of layout. So if you want to see that and how I did it in Google Calendar, just watch my June planner lineup or flip through video. So the only other planner that I use is my work planner. So the planners that I didn't use in terms of paper planning were a personal catch-all of any sort. I didn't have anything. That was all in Google Calendar. I have my faith journal, which is set to the side. I am going to be doing a flip through for my faith journal in the next couple of videos. I'm not exactly sure exactly when I'll get to it, but I'll have a faith journal kind of flip through of all of the different things I've been using for 2025 coming up. But I did use it, but I don't really consider that a planner anymore. I do have my family planner, which I did not use at all in July. And then the other planner was my social media planner, which I am going back into in August, but I did not plan to do anything in July with that. Okay, after I ended the last video, I realized there was one set of pages that I forgot to show, so this will just be inserted in the middle somewhere. That kind of makes sense, I guess. I do also have a series of home binders, and for the month of July I had several pages in my Disney home binder. My home binder looks like this. So I did have a couple of pages in there, actually just 1 week of pages, but I like to officially flip through everything, and so I'm going to show you the July pages. So this planner is one where I'm just taking notes and planning for future trips. This particular week was just, I think, like the week before even the trip that we actually took. And so you can see here, this is June 30th through July 6th. June 30th was Monday. July started on Tuesday. But what I did was, for here, I just took notes. This is all of June notes. And then starting in July, I just took notes essentially on this sheet of paper, and then took June 2nd, even though this is Wednesday, I just took notes here just kind of to keep this together, right? So the planner itself is a classic vertical, as you can see, and what I did was just kind of, again, recycle as much as I can. So these colorful strips are from a previous trip, and so the current trip, or like this 2025 trip, I kind of uses this like periwinkle blue color. And I also used a planner kit from Planners Anonymous called Country Cottage, and all of those elements, this blue, the periwinkle color, and the Country Cottage, the florals and the bunnies and things like that, I used for this trip. So it was mostly blue, but there was kind of like this hint of green as well. And so anything that's in that periwinkle color, these are all the notes for the current trip. The washi was just to cover up the dates. Yeah, and then all the other colors are essentially from an old trip. And so, yeah, that was it. This was really, July the 6th was the very last week. And then these are notes from like 2024, even maybe even 2023. And that was it. So I wanted to officially show you that 1 week. And so, yeah, that will just be inserted somewhere in the video just to get the official full record of July on camera. So yeah, it was very, very simple. The only other planner, like I said, is my work planner. And so this is not the planner that or like not the setup that I had for it. It was actually in my work planner, but I've since deconstructed everything so that way I can get this set up for moving into August and the rest of the year. And so this is a brand new setup for it, but the pages in here were essentially the only pages that I used for July. And so I'm going to zoom out just a tiny bit, and I'm going to show you these pages. And again, it was not in this setup, it was just in a different planner, but I've since broken down that planner completely and repurposed it for my personal catch-all. So this is pretty much it. So for my work planner, I was using in July a dashboard planner, and it's a big dashboard layout that I ended up using all of my dashboard pages in July. And so you'll see that I kind of run out of pages in the middle of the month. I just use this random divider just to divide the page, or like to divide the months from each other. Once I flip through this, I'm pretty much, I think, just going to recycle these pages. I don't need to keep them for any reason. And again, I've moved into a completely different system starting in August right here. So yeah, I was just kind of storing these pages together so that way I can do the flip through. But these dashboard layout pages, I use kind of front and back. So instead of doing it where it's a left-hand side and a right-hand side, I use the same week. So this week is June 30th through the 6th. This side is that week, right? And then this these are the notes for June 30th through July the 6th. And so the way that I use it is, well, right here I was kind of putting my work hours. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. And then I just track meetings and events here, major tasks as well, but just like meetings, events, and big notes to myself here, like right here, 4th of July. And then on the back, I use the left-hand side for my tasks. And then I use these 3 boxes kind of as flex spaces. Normally I'll make notes about big projects that I have coming up, things like that. And so here I just was tracking some of the major priorities that I have for that week, since it was the beginning of a new month. So I just wrote down the things that I had to get done that month, some things that I needed to kind of plan ahead for in July. And I didn't write the task list all the way down, but normally I'll have a task list all the way down, and then I'll have to use extra pages in order to kind of complete the week. So you'll see that kind of come up. And again, work hours, all of my meetings and events, and then we have a giant task list, major priorities and tasks for those priorities. And because my task list ended here, here's just extra notes on a random sheet of paper, just continuing July 9th, July 10th, July 11th. This one was old notes, so that's actually from social media. All right, and then here I took 0 notes for my meetings. Not quite sure why that was, but I of course have my tasks, even more tasks, more and more tasks, just all the tasks. All right, I wrote some tasks here. I have some here. Again, just on like random sheets of paper. I am trying to use up these pages as much as I can. Right, I didn't use the back here. I didn't use this page at all. A page like this, where it's kind of like not used at all. I've decorated it, but I haven't used it. I would probably save it to reuse it. So right now I'm using a big size for my personal catch-all. So I would just save these pages to use potentially in my personal catch-all at some point. Right, this page, again, like that was actually not the corresponding page. So this was meant to be taped together. Let me show you this. All right, so this is July 21st through the 27th, and these were the notes for July 21st through the 27th. Right, this one, again, like just an old one. All right, so these are the Thursday notes. I took a few notes here. Again, this is an old page, and this is my notes for Friday. Now, you can see like there are pages that I've saved and I just reuse. That's essentially what I'm saying for like a page like this. I would just save it and reuse it at some point. So even though there's like old notes here, I would just reuse it, right? And what I typically do, just to go back even a little bit more, is if it's an old page, I would just cross it out. I just didn't do it for some of it. But like normally I'll just say this is an old page. I just cross it out with a line. Okay, so we are at the July 27th date, right? So here's July 27th. The tasks, and then the random pages that kind of went with the 27th, and this is Friday the 25th. And so in the once the 27th kind of rolled around, I actually didn't realize until like the 26th, which is, that's unlike me, but anyway, it came up that I didn't have enough pages. And so I decided to, instead of trying to start something like try to find a page or do something a little bit different to try to continue in the big size with additional notes, what I decided to do was move into this planner. And so this planner is one that I picked up at Go Wild. It was one of the swag drops. It is actually an outdated planner. So the last month in here is June 2025. And so I started this July 2025. And so the way that I did this is just a monthly planner with some notes pages in between. So I'll just show you pretty much everything. So this is kind of what the front looks like. I went ahead and put my name in here. There's some beginning pages to kind of just talk about things. Right, and then this is the July page. And so this is the notes page. This is page 1, page 2, and then there's the monthly, which is pages 3 and 4 for July. And what it has is this month's goals, top priorities, which here I just use as a task list, and then some notes, and I just took notes, okay? And so just use that as like flex space to take notes, do that type of thing. But in terms of the monthly, I only used last week, so I did go through and in pencil wrote down all of my events, but those were already in my dashboard layout, so I just wrote them in here just to kind of make it not look empty. But I really only needed it for this last week, and so I wrote that in pen. And so I started with the 28th and just wrote in all of my meetings and events. Now, because I didn't have the space to take my tasks, what I ended up doing was writing them here for July. In August, I am moving into this plus daily pages, and so I have a lot more room to write my task list. But just for this final week of July, just these 4 days right here, I just decided to squeeze my notes just squeeze my notes in here. And so that was totally fine. And so again, it's just those 4 pages for each month. Because it was a 2024 planner, I had to white out the date here, and I decided the easiest conversion is just to washi over the days of the week and just use this as, instead of using it as a Sunday start, just use it as a Monday start. Then I don't have to redate at all. So that's just kind of what I did, is just take it from a Sunday start to a Monday start, and it converts perfectly from one year to the very next year, right? And so here's August. I do have my August dates in here, like all of my meetings and events already kind of laid out. And again, like the setup here is just the notes pages for each month as well as the monthly, and then it just goes from there all the way through. And for August, I am using this in combination with daily pages. Again, you'll see that in the August flip through. But for now, you can see that, you know, one of the things that I'm very excited about was being able to finish up a size, a layout of a size. So I finished all of my dashboard layout pages, with the exceptions of the ones that I'm kind of cycling back into the rotation to use at a later date. But I have since decided, because I'm moving into this monthly layout with daily pages, that I don't need a big size anymore in terms of Happy Planner. So that has moved to be my personal catch-all, and I've changed up my entire system for August essentially. So for this video though, you can see it was pretty basic. The majority of my paper planning was really my work planner. I did try to keep notes on paper for my work planner. I of course work with a lot of online notes, and so there are online meetings, emails, all of those types of things that I also have to deal with. But I also like to keep track of all of those things and have a record of them on paper, and so I definitely kept that in July. And my work planner is probably the only one for 2025 that has been extremely consistent. So that was that. I also had that 1 week of my food logging and the 1 week of expense tracking, and that was pretty much it. Everything else is in my Google Calendar. Again, I'm not showing that in this video, but definitely watch my June planner flip through video, and I have a video of like what my Google calendar looked like for June. It looks the exact same for July, which is different events. So yeah, again, I feel like a fairly short video, generally speaking, relatively speaking, because my flip through videos tend to be about 30 minutes. So this was, of course, like about half that time, I think. So much shorter than usual, but July was an awesome month, just not on paper. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel, and until the next video, bye guys.